If you, as you are right now, were transported into Super Mario 64, do you think you could beat it? Do you think you could brave the fiery depths of Lethal Lava Land, or tackle the treacherous sands of Shifting Sandland? Join me as today we figure out if the average human could beat Super Mario 64 and claim the Power Star at the end. Today we're going to be going over specifically the basement areas. For this little thought experiment of ours, we'll be using the average human according to a quick Google search that I did. I know, just the most thorough of research, but a quick Google search presents us with these stats. I'm going to assume that you have seen one of the previous videos, ideally the first one in the series, and have a basic idea of some of our capabilities. And with that, we are ready to delve into the depths of... Now, right off the bat, would we even be able to enter the portrait for Lethal Lava Land? I'm here to say, probably not. I mean, magma, after all, just standing magma. I would assume even just contact with the portrait would probably burn us alive. I mean, I personally tend to get very warm and overheat when my windows close for a little bit too long, so, you know, I'm cooked. In some ways, quite literally. Luckily, that's not the only area we have down here. We're going from a boiling hot mess that we would not be able to even think about getting into to a less boiling hot mess. Shifting Sandland would again be quite risky for, of course, the heat stroke issue. However, this at least would be survivable for more than a couple minutes, but we would need an ample helping of shade and water. Luckily, both of those can be found in this area, although in slightly different places, so you'd want to have something that can actually carry the water to cool yourself off and take breaks as necessary to not pass out due to the heat exhaustion. However, there are some other things that we'll need to be worried about as well, such as things like pokies, fly guys, and literally just the ground. Fun fact, quicksand is actually not that dangerous in most cases. I mean, sure it can be, but most likely you'll land on some more solid ground before you end up actually sinking to any point where it'd be dangerous. Problem is when you panic, of course, that would help you to sink faster. I was really led to believe that quicksand would be a much larger issue in my adult life than it turned out to be. But not him though, he is definitely dead. As far as possible stars, I'm really only seeing two, and that would be the one at the top of the pyramid, which you could probably navigate with some careful platforming, watching out for the, the fly guys shooting fire out at us for, I don't know why they have that ability, but they do. And maybe in the talons of the big bird, there's a star that we could probably get as well. Maybe we offer him some meat, some Goomba meat. There's some Goombas actually just on the other side. I don't really know exactly what this bird would eat, but it can be seen attacking Mario. Maybe grab some coins or something, lay him out on a stack, wait for him to come down, and then grab the star while he's distracted. Unfortunately, the rest of the stars are most likely not reasonable to do. The ones inside of the pyramid just would take too much athleticism for us to do, and while it would be cooler inside the pyramid just because we don't have to deal with the extremely hot sun, it would still be very, very warm in there. Even if we don't factor in any sort of heat or anything inside of the pyramid, we are probably still cooked. The other one that might be possible is the 4 pillars, but even if we were able to get on top of the 4 pillars and remove the top of the pyramid, getting in to fight the eye guy? Eye bite? No, that's a D&D spell. Apparently it's called an eye rock, which, a little conceited. I think you rock for hitting that like and subscribe button, but that's beside the point. We wouldn't be able to defeat him. He's just such a large, heavy, moving object. Even just his basic push would probably do some pretty severe damage to our bodies, and we would have to find a way to poke his eye, a handful of times in order to defeat him and grab the star, which I just don't think is possible. So Shifting Sandland is a bust aside from 2 stars. Luckily, we're able to get those at least, giving us a total of 23, and moving on to... As rare as it is, we are given a brief respite as we are not boiling alive in the heat anymore. It's actually probably pretty cold in Hazy Maze Cave, but we're also given a free star from the toad outside of Hazy Maze Cave for a total of 24 stars, and access into Hazy Maze Cave is interesting. I don't know how going into an ink well lands us in a cave, but hey, go off. It's a fun look, at least. I really like the aesthetic of the entrance puddle. I don't really know exactly what it is. I like it, but it doesn't really make much sense. Then again, this is also the game where we're just going into a bunch of portraits and being teleported to different worlds. Logic's out the door, I guess. However, as I mentioned, it's going to be a bit tricky getting into the level proper. to the left and right will see different paths, and both of them end in a jump that an average human just wouldn't be able to make. That's even discounting any of the obstacles. We would be able to grab one of the wing caps, maybe from another level, and get here with just enough time to get over the left path, which would by far be the simpler path to take and the safer as well. You see, we'd have a total of 70 seconds to use this wing cap. And my logic here is it has 10 seconds on the ground, so we could break open the box, hang on to it for 9.9 seconds, then put it on our head, and then and only then will the 60-second timer begin, and we will be able to fly at any point during that. This will allow us to get to the left side, and that's pretty much it. When we got over here, I was pretty excited there would be something we'd be able to do, but as it turns out, there's another jump that's just the tiniest bit too far for us to make, and the wing cap would most likely have expired by this point. Again, we only have 70 seconds to get here, and we can't run nearly as fast as Mario. I'm willing to give us that we would be able to get into Hazy Maze Cave and past the first jump, which even then is kind of stretching it. Then we'd have to go all the way around or fly over this gap where the rolling rocks are to gain really anything useful from this level. So unfortunately, this one's going to be a complete bust. Now, luckily, we do have the right path, but again, the wing cap wouldn't last long enough. We'd have to make this fall from this pole, which is easily enough to shatter a bone or something. I think it's like 10 feet is safe to fall from. Any more than that, you're going to want to be doing the tuck and roll method, which, while reliable, only works consistently up to about 35 or 40 feet. I believe this to be much more than that. Best case scenario, you'll make it with some scrapes and bumps, but there's a decent chance you're going to snap a leg, or maybe even your spine, crack your skull on the floor while trying to roll. Who knows what could possibly happen? Either way, not a good plan. And the only other area to go would be through the red coin room and into the poisonous cave. Not a good plan. Not a good plan at all. Unfortunately, falling into this area would be quite a problem for our human lungs. Now, Mario has a bit more time than we would, but really breathing in anything that's not oxygen is incredibly bad for a human. Interestingly enough, this is actually a very common occurrence in some caves that have a tendency to trap these odorless, colorless gases that will essentially just suffocate you. You can't even really tell that it's happening unless you start getting super tired and maybe you kind of understand or are experienced in caving and stuff, but this is a very real thing. But Newbornkilik, I hear you say, you talked about how far this jump was. Well, I would chat up and I would be able to make that jump. Let me tell you, okay, maybe, doesn't change much, gonna be honest, maybe you could make it, but our average human probably couldn't. But it's really close, right? Bear in mind, any implements that we want to use to cross this gap we'd have to get here with, and that large jump just before we got here pretty much means that we're not bringing anything with us. If you're kind of wondering how I'm judging that we wouldn't be able to make this, I've just kind of been using a short hop on Mario to see if it would be reasonable for us to make it. Mario's a pretty short guy, about 5 feet. Most of us are a little taller than that, so we'd have, be able to grab things a little bit higher than he would, but he can also jump like crazy high, even with a short hop. Imagine being able to jump your entire body length. That's insane. So I'm just going to assume that this jump is completely impassable. And I guess we gotta try and find a way to get into... Now, luckily, we and our big smart human brains could just break the mechanism or pry the door open in some way. Even if the door is magical and protected, the castle walls probably aren't. Aren't there like codes or something in there? Isn't that where most of the people from the castle went, was into the castle walls? Might have to apologize to some families as we're chipping away the rocks, but I think we could manage to get past it. But it wouldn't matter too much as Dire Dire Docks is completely impassable. Swimming takes up a lot of oxygen, and oxygen is what we need to breathe. Pretty much done for on that one. No Dire Dire Docks means no Bowser in the Fire Sea. Let's say that we could, by some miracle, make it into Bowser in the Fire Sea. Wouldn't matter, alright? Magma. Pretty bad for humans, as it turns out. It's on a list of weaknesses we got. Most things, I guess, are pretty weak to magma, but humans especially. But even giving us the extreme benefit of the doubt and assuming that the lava would just not affect us. Maybe you're a Giga Chad, all right? And you live in a volcano. I don't judge you. I don't know why you're there. This course, even without the magma, would push a top athlete to their absolute limit. You ever tried to jump off of a pole? When I was a kid, I tried it once. Boom. Fell flat on my face. Wouldn't recommend it. Didn't ever try it again. And yes, while it could be done under extreme heat, probably not. At least for very long, you'd come to heat exhaustion yet again. Kind of the theme of this episode is, hey, you'll get too hot and pass out. Or stop breathing. Pretty dark episode, really. Which is a great segue into the fight with Bowser. Let's assume that we are graced by the gods of the Mushroom Kingdom, and we somehow make it to Bowser. Last time, maybe we could have brought some weapons to poke his eyes out or something, make him run into one of his bombs on accident, but we wouldn't be able to bring anything with us. Anything that we'd want to use as a weapon, we would have to get to him, which we already established we can't do anyway. Bowser is, of course, much more difficult in his second encounter. He can jump on the platform that we're fighting on and tilt it, tilting you and making you slide down in some very, very hot magma. And he can just teleport too. I'm not sure where he picked up that ability, but he has it now. And herein lies the main issue with our challenge. We can't do anything to Bowser. Even if we were able to break open the mechanisms on all the doors and somehow get through the magical barrier to Bowser 3, it wouldn't matter because we can't defeat Bowser. I guess that's it. I mean, it was a pretty good run, let's be honest. I wasn't even expecting us to be able to get our 24 stars that we ended with. Should I go over the remaining levels in the upstairs? I mean, don't get me wrong, we're not going to be able to do something like Tick-Tock Clock, but, you know, Wet Dry World, we might have a chance in, actually. Mostly the dry portion of Wet Dry World, but if you could choose any one game to be isekai'd into, what game would it be? And no, Sage, you can't choose Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball. Okay, you can choose Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball, I don't actually care. Go ahead and type Nod, win in the comments if you'd whip Bowser in a street fight anyway, despite all of his advantages. Thank you so much all of the supporters on all of the platforms. You are awesome. And just for watching all the way to the end, you're awesome as well. Let me know what game you want to see next. Anyway, I'm Newbornkilik, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm out.